Sometime during the C-section, I literally died on the operating table. I end up walking down this pathway. I could see at the end of the path this bright archway and two angels.
I want to welcome you back again for another story answering the question, is God active? Today I'm here with Diane Warrington, and she has a story that has been on her heart for many years.
Okay, on my first daughter, we took, and I had to have an emergency C-section. And so I took, and I was a Christian at the time, and I remember going through the doors of the OR saying, God be with me, because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I get in there and they put me to sleep, and sometime during the delivery, the C-section, I took, and I literally died on the operating table. And I end up like walking down this pathway with lilacs on the side, and I could, see at the end of the path, I could see this bright archway and two angels, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle without being able to see his face. And so I walk up to the bottom of the steps, and I look up and I said, can I come in? And he says, no, you have a beautiful daughter to go and raise her as I would. So I took it. I'm like, okay, turn around, and I'm walking down this pathway, and the two angels are walking beside me, and we walk for a bit, and then I stop, and I can see myself and the commotion in the OR.
Okay, so you're looking down, seeing yourself on the table.
Yes,
okay.
And I could see myself, and I just like, what? And then I could see the commotion, and I just remember saying to the one angel, I said, that's me. He says, yes, it's time you go back. And so at that point, I went back, and I could just hear a bit of commotion and sort of realized like I was still under the anesthetic.
Yeah.
But later on, this was when I had her like 8 o'clock in the morning. And finally, about 1 o'clock, just after midnight, end of that day and beginning of the next. And I remember being in ICU. I looked up and I could see the fluorescent lights, and I thought it was the sunshine. And so I took and I called for the nurse. She took and she came over, and I asked her what time it was, and she said, it's 1 o'clock. And I said, 1 o'clock, like in the afternoon? She says, no, it's 1 o'clock at night.
Like in the morning,
in the morning,
yeah, like AM.
In the next AM. So I'm like, oh, and then I just went back to sleep, and they had me on the respirator, like from breathing for me. And it was next afternoon, they had called in the specialist. He came in, and I was more coherent, but I couldn't talk. I couldn't move anything of my body except my toes. So he asked me questions, and I couldn't answer them. And then he took and he poked my toes, and I could feel that. And so he says, this leg will be yes, this way leg we know. And he asked me several questions and that. And I answered him. He said, okay, they figured out what was wrong. And it took, and the anesthetic had taken, and it was not at the right one for me.
Oh.
So I was highly allergic to it.
Oh, wow.
So that it stopped my heart. And luckily enough, God was with me, and he, took and saved my life. And so,
because this was it was a wrong medication for you to go under.
Anesthetic
to go under. Wow.
Yeah. And so I took, and I was always like, I'm not going to tell no one about this, because I thought, and
they're going to think you're crazy.
They're going to think I'm crazy. And I knew things like this happened, but I'm like, no, okay. So that next evening, my pastor came in and saw me, and he's talking. He says to me, he says, I've been praying for you. And he says, something happened to you in that operating room. He says, what was it? And I'm just like, how do you know? And he's like, God told me to pray for you at that time. And then I told him. And then he says, God saved you. You were spared. And I knew life was precious.
Yeah.
And I knew God loved me. But after that, I realized how precious life is, how you can have a closer walk to God, because that made me drew me closer to God, knowing that He loved me to save me. So after that, I wanted more from what I was getting in my walk with Him. I had a hunger. I wanted to get closer to Him, because I grew up in the church.
Yeah.
And I knew there was more. And I asked God, I said, there's something about this that, I've got to learn from this. I've got to learn more about you. I want to walk closer to you.
Wow.
So then I took, and that's where God took and started to lead me and help me through through different things I went through in my life. And I know God was always there for you, and always there for me. And I'm still on my journey of closer walk, and it's just amazing.
Well, you did tell me at one point, you said that you were at a rodeo and you went to get some food, but you ended up going to another spot, and at that spot you met a group of people and they gave you some material which actually helped you closer in your walk with God.
Yeah.
I mean, to me that's so amazing.
Yeah. I had no intention to walk around at the kiosks. I was drawn, like the food was down here, and there was other couple of kiosks here with vendors, and it was just like, come this way, I want you to see this. I got up there, and I was just like, oh, and the people I spoke with there, they were just so helpful, and I just felt drawn to their word even more, and so I took and
On a journey.
On a journey, and
Wow.
I'm still on it, and I'm very happy, and
well, we're glad that God spared your life.
I am so happy. And my daughter, my first daughter, her family goes to church, and my middle daughter, and Matt, she goes to church. My son, he grew up in the church too.
So they've been influenced by you and what God has done.
Yeah.
There's a text in the Bible. It comes out of Psalms 23, and many of us know the 23rd Psalm, but I just want to go to verse 4. And verse 4 says, "Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me." You might be walking through a dark valley today. You may not have the experience that Julie had. You realize that you're going to die, and then God saves you. But you are in a dark valley. The Word of God wants to give us hope today. The Lord is our shepherd. He wants to walk beside us. And I encourage you to reach out to Him in your darkest moments. And then join us next week as we continue answering the question, is God active? Thanks for watching today. If you have challenges in your life or worried about your future, I want to invite you to take time to pray. Well, what does that really look like? It's as simple as talking to a friend. And who of us don't have friends that we like to talk to? God cares about the things you're facing in your life right now. Take them to Him. Remember, we're also praying for you. See you next week.